Day. My name is Ryan, and this is Data Points. I'm the president of Pinpoint Guam, and today we're going to meet with Rob Jackson. And Rob is the innovation coach, and he has a podcast. And I got to know him because he asked me to be on, and it's kind of a nice experience to get interviewed versus being the interviewer. But what's exciting about getting Rob is because I get to ask him all these questions about what he's doing to facilitate the technology space locally, and he's kind of set up his own corner as the innovation coach. And I think that's important because you do need someone like that to help you navigate the cultural change that comes with a shift in systems and technology and ideas. Thanks for joining us. You'll love our content. Thanks for liking, sharing, and subscribing on all our platforms. That's Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please be sure to send us your questions and enjoy the content today. Hafaday, and welcome to Data Points. My name is Ryan, and I'm the president of Pinpoint Guam, and I'm here with Rob Jackson. Rob, introduce yourself.
Hi. Well, Ryan, thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Rob Jackson. I'm a retired Air Force colonel with 27 plus years of service. After my time in the military, I went into the federal government contracting space as an executive and a manager. Spent some time there. That's what actually brought me here to Guam. After doing some time in that space, I decided to go out on my own. And right now, I kind of claim the consultant, thought leader, entrepreneur, teacher kind of space, if you will, here in Guam. And I have a consulting firm called Most Services, LLC. And what we do is really help businesses and really organizations of all types, nonprofit and government, to improve and achieve operational excellence. We also work with organizations to help implement technology solutions, as well as help organizations achieve operational excellence. And if need be, if you're interested in competing for federal government contracts, well, I can help and be part of your business development or business capture team to help you win those government contracts. So that's me in a nutshell.
But what you missed is how you branded yourself, right? So how have you branded yourself in the market?
Yeah, so some people know me as Rob the Innovation Coach,
Right.
all right? So that really kind of hammers home the thought leader piece, that really about improvement, innovation, and development of all kinds, whether we're talking about innovating a process, taking a piece of technology and implementing it to achieve an outcome, or the overall economic development of Guam, which is my home and I love and I have a passion for, because I see a vision of Guam as a potential 21st century tech and innovation hub. It really can be that if we have the right leadership, the right commitment, and we stay the course and we keep ourselves accountable. We can be that next tech and innovation hub of the Pacific.
And I hear a common thread that I've been hearing in all the podcasts is with the right leadership. And leadership is important. Vision is important. And so I appreciate your vision in kind of owning that corner and saying this is where we need to go. And I think that's the reason why that is interesting is because we have an aging population that has existing businesses, and probably those businesses have been operating in the same way, not leveraging technology for a long time. And so a new operator might come in, or the existing operator might want to leverage that, but they may not know how to get into that space, how to fully leverage the tool. Plus, a lot of times you buy an application to run your business, but maybe you only use 30% of it.
Right.
And so it's about leveraging that. And also it's a journey. It doesn't just start. You started at 30% and you grow organizational capacity to get to the 100, because you can't get to 100 right away.
Yes, that's perfection.
Yes.
Yeah. So I like to use the analogy of a tsunami, right? So I tell people in my comings and goings that Guam doesn't understand that there was a seismic disturbance out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And it's caused a huge tidal wave that's headed Guam's way. All right. It's a technological tidal wave, and it's going to hit us no matter what we do. We can't wish it away. We can't vote it away. We can't just tuck our heads in the sand and hope that, hope for the best. The question is going to be, how do we respond to this? Because it's already been launched. All right. There's going to be more technological, societal, and overall change than any point in human history in the next 2 decades or so. There's a whole platform of different technologies that are developing within their own silo, but they're also affecting each other. So there's going to be huge shifts in business models, in the way that we live our lives, the way that we get around, the way that we do just about everything. And again, that's that wave that's coming at Guam. So the question is Guam going to just sit back and wait for it to hit and possibly be destroyed, or at best disrupted by it? Or are we going to get out there and figure out how to ride that wave to success and prosperity? And that's the choice that I'd like to see more people doing. Let's figure out how to get up on that wave and ride it to prosperity and success.
I would argue that that wave has hit us, and now we're just dealing with the flooding, and slowly the water's creeping, creeping up to our neck, and here we are like this, right? And because we don't have the internal structures to create the systems and the talent that we need to pull us out, because what we do create is leaving.
Yes.
And then
yes,
we don't have the foresight.
We're exporting our human capital talent.
Right. But what I do see in the space and that excites me is like charter schools coming up with a focus on technology and,
Yes.
and trades. And I think that infrastructure is important. Can you talk to me about what you think works here right now systemically in terms of setting the table for future success?
Well, I think you're on the right track. I think it really has to do with this next generation. So I recently started as an adjunct faculty member at University of Guam.
Okay.
I'm teaching the public administration department, and I'm doing that not as a side gig, but that's really a core part of what I believe my mission is. So being able to invest in Guam's next generations and the generations coming up and affect them with that same kind of mindset, that same kind of vision, so that they can be those movers and shakers out there making it happen. It has to be that. So I'm going to shamelessly plug some things here. So
Nice.
Here we go. The Association of Career and Technical Education, ACTE, they're having their summit coming up on the 20th and the 21st of February. And I tell you, it's going to be a really outstanding event. I'm going to be participating in it, hopefully as a briefer and as a moderator. But, we need to start thinking and taking seriously this idea of workforce development. And it's broader than just workforce development. It's really human capital development. If we understand that technological tidal wave is coming at us and it's going to destroy these business models and these jobs and stuff like that of the past and create these new jobs of the future, then what are those jobs of the future? What do they look like? And then how do we now steer a pipeline to feed those jobs here on Guam, not exporting our talent back to the States or Asia or whatever, and have those people contributing to those areas coming up, but keep them here so that we can uplift the economic development of Guam. That's really the way to do it. So workforce development as a proactive and intentional strategy that we do. It's not just government. It's not just industry. It's not just academia. It's not just the private sector. It's all four of those working together almost on a regular basis. You almost have to have a standing structure, if you will, that's constantly like shifting and making incremental changes about what we want and what we need in the curriculums, in the apprenticeships, in the internship programs, in the kind of courses that we're offering, in the kind of technology that we're bringing in. We almost need like a full-time kind of group of the right people doing that for Guam so that that pipeline is established, and on the other end of it, we're spitting out people who are ready for those new jobs and that new Guam.
I agree. And so, as a technology business, we're looking at building that infrastructure as well. And so, like Dr. Sam Mabini is a good example with a CTE program. Telling middle school educators what's important in the workforce, right?
Yes.
But even at the university level, we audited some of the curriculum there, and we compared it, the programming languages, that are being offered there versus the programming languages that are being most commonly hired, like in the tech industry, and there's a gap, right? And so I think analysis of those programs and more alignment with what the hiring is and where the trend. With technology, you really have to be in that space. You have to be abreast. And I just, the through line that I'm seeing is everybody needs an innovation coach, because no one is really understanding of what those through lines and what the vision should be, because there's a lack of understanding of the capacity needed to be built, and then what that capacity, there's a lack of understanding of what right looks like.
And even more, I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of people who have deluded themselves into a false sense of comfort. I've been doing XYZ, fill in the blank, for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and everything's fine. I've been able to be successful. I've achieved a pretty good livelihood for myself. I've achieved whatever fill in the blank results, and they think that that's okay, that tidal wave out there that I've talked about isn't coming for them. It's still out there. It's real. There was some talk about like how software and technology had changed the world and stuff, and they talked about like places like Blockbuster and stuff like that. Yeah, Blockbuster folded or whatever, but the bullet that went through the head to kill Blockbuster was shot out of the barrel of a gun years beforehand. And that's kind of what's going on right now. There's a lot of businesses and operations on Guam right now. They don't know that they got a bullet that's already been fired from a chamber that's getting ready to destroy their entire business model and their whole way of doing things. So the idea that they can just sit there and be comfortable and that they're not like actively moving and shaking and doing something different, they're going to hit with that bullet.
And so that's fair, Rob. But, I will say, like the broadband case, right? When we're talking about like, the evolution of streaming and all that stuff, right? And everyone's like, well, when Disney is going to come and all that stuff. Eventually, when the behemoths move, they can effectuate the strategy. If they truly internally understand, there's so many efficiencies where you can become a juggernaut, just like Netflix, even though you didn't start in that space, because there's a lot of capital and a lot of organizational know-how that can be leveraged. But again, like you said, the idea is pervasive. Like, I'm fine. I'm going to be leaving the market soon.
That's right.
Leave that for the next guy. But I know this works. And so at Chamber, right, at the Economic Forum, there was some banging on the table saying, this is the model. We should do it. We just need to do it better than we have been, and that's the way to success, versus, hey, maybe that one day was a variance, and maybe this is the norm, and maybe we have to pivot. And I think that's the idea of the early stage innovator, early adopter, late majority, and then the laggards, right? Or the Luddites, right? And it's your advantage now is, if you're on the bottom looking up at one of these guys and you want to differentiate or you want to come in, look at a business and see how you can leverage it with technology, solve the problem with technology, see how that you can incorporate that into your focus and operate in that way, even though it's not aligned with what everybody is telling you. And so I hear this all the time in rooms. It's too big. Right? It's
too risky.
It's too risky, right?
They deem it too risky to do something new. What they don't understand is if you don't do something else, it's gonna be too late to catch up.
And that's fair. That's disrupt. That's what.
Yeah.
That's the main.
That's disruption.
That's disruption, right?
Disruption. Yes.
And that creates a market in itself. And there's always someone coming in with a new idea, trying to do something. And there's a book I really love that I keep talking about. It's On the Edges by this guy Nate Silver. I don't know if you ever read it, right?
Yes.
But
I've heard
it's about the law of numbers, right? But the idea of randomization, like even if the law of averages say, you're gonna double down or you're going to kick the extra point on this time. Sometimes you just got to do the opposite. Just because in doing the opposite, sometimes that's where the innovation comes from. Doing everything contrary to what you're supposed to do, you zag, right? Just because, not because the information tells you. And that's aligned with like the difference between humans and AI in a lot of ways, right? You do the crazy things, like when you're you do everything that defies logic. There's no ceiling. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do it. It's like I can run through this wall, but somebody eventually does, or they crack the wall, and then it's like, oh shoot, he cracked the wall. Maybe if I approach it from a different angle, right? So I really appreciate that approach and the idea of the disruptor, but also. I think what is missing here is collaboration in a lot of ways. And we're not having conversations in a way around this that we should be, because everyone's protectionist about their idea. But, like you say, it's not about the idea, it's about the execution. Everybody has the same idea, like 100 different guys, like, hey, let's sell books online, but only one guy, did the thing and did it effectively. And there's usually room for like 2 or 3, right? You got your top 3 and everyone else is like whatever, right? But if you're in that place, that's a good place to be. It's not a horrible place depending on your market share. And so with that, again, this is one of the ways we got aligned when we first met. It came, like one of the things we started talking about is our big ideas. None of us, none of us were quiet about it, right? And I think there's our space is burgeoning, and the question that I keep coming back to is, okay, I have all these great ideas, but how am I going to do all this? Like, where's the structure and support? Do you feel there's enough structure and support to bring big ideas to the table? And what do you think those things are?
So it's funny that you should ask that, because that's really one of the reasons that motivated me. One of the 2 reasons that motivated me to do my podcast, Innovate Guam podcast. The first reason was it helped me on a journey of learning, that I was really serious and committed to making my home better. So let me have deep dive conversations with as many smart movers and shakers out there who were out there in the space trying to make things happen. I would be able to learn and understand context, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But secondly, it's collaboration. I want to find my tribe, if you will, a coalition of the willing, so that we're sitting down and we're having this conversation, and man, we just really, really vibe. And because we vibe and we connect and stuff, I'm sharing my ideas, you're sharing your ideas and stuff. We decide we're going to now launch a new venture or whatever. That's really what it's been about. And probably the best example of that is Charlie Hermosa. Charlie and I, he's kind of like my brother from another mother. I always joke with him about. But Charlie and I started off early doing that stuff. And we actually have a venture that we're doing called Ocean Link. It won at last year's Micronesia Startup Micronesia entrepreneurial competition. We're still trying to raise the seed capital for it, but the idea is to be able to use smart buoys out in the ocean to create a digital backbone, leveraging satellites and stuff like that, to be able to provide a network for like local fishermen and boaters and stuff to have a connection when they're out in the sea over the horizon right now, where they lose that connection over there. But even more than that, it opens up a lot of opportunities for things like, one, giving government agencies more maritime surveillance and situational awareness on things like illegal drug smuggling, illegal immigration, fishing enforcement, Also, what it does is it starts building a digital backbone for other things. Like, for example, if you want to fly drones or whatever, you now have a digital backbone that you can, use to get from like maybe between islands,
Sure.
where right now that's not possible because of line of sight with the drones and stuff. But now, if you find a way to take advantage of a digital backbone in the water, now you're able to do that. So those kind of ideas, to having people to sit down and talk about who really want to try new things. I'm very, very charged up by that, and it makes me passionate.
Yeah, that's why I asked you to be on, because it's nice. Rob, you're always on one side of the mic. You're the interviewer, so it's nice to be the interviewee because you get to say all the stuff that you really want to say, but it's like no one's asking me the question. But I appreciate the journey, because that's exactly why I started my journey. Is just because I wanted answers to questions, and I thought other people would find that information valuable, and they have. And so I think we have a real estate specific subset, but really ultimately what we're chasing is the same thing: a better Guam. I think everybody should be able to afford a house and have a safe space to live.
Yes.
I think our social problems are all created in a lot of ways by unhoused and like substandard housing conditions and the lack of community. If those structures were in place, and Fernando Estevez actually spoke to this in terms of his attainable housing,
Yes.
like all the social ills that come about as a function of like, being stacked in housing and not having safe and secure housing. And then if you come in with the technology piece, now we have jobs for these people, right? We have trades that aren't like behind some kind of paywall. They're easily accessible. They're stackable. We have a great program at the community college that's going. We have the graduated registered apprentice. There are systems in place. But again, a guy like you needs to teach the market how to use these structures and how to leverage technology, because it's a shift. Because where I come from is I come with a big idea, like pinpoint data points. People think Pinpoint's a podcast. But Data Points is the podcast, but the podcast is around all the information that Pinpoint aggregates, right?
Yes.
And we start with real estate records, but there's a baseline from records where we can expand to other things. And that's the thing, the government isn't perpetuating these systems that allow you the structures and allow you to leverage the data. What they do continually is buy applications. They buy the application and they don't worry about the data. And then when they worry about the data, they ask the vendor of the application, it's like, oh, you can have it for a few dollars more. And then they sell it to you, or they make it difficult to parse, where it's like you can pull the structure out of it. And, like the technology use case that I see that's excellent is GPA. Right? They went through RPA, robotic process automation.
Yep.
And so like when you go in there, you type your name into a keyboard. It's not analog. You're not doing a paper application, right? But it gets onboarded into the system right away, whatever you type in, right? And then it starts a journey and a ticketing system, and it all runs through there. Everything's online. They can push a button and turn your house on. They can turn it off, right? They have real-time monitoring. They've realized so much efficiency, but it's because they've learned how to structure their process in such a way that works with the automation. And they have to, in a way, train the customers to work with the automation. Because like, as an example, Bank of Guam, right? They use AI, but they're traditionally a counterbank. You go there on like a Thursday or Friday, their user base is old school. So they want to go with the counter. Even the government agencies, people want to go, they want to pay, because they don't trust these systems. They don't trust the execution. They don't trust. And so changing that mindset and training the customer and training the employee to deal with these realities, that's an effort.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Everybody talks about how, when we started kind of the IT revolution, there was this process where we had to horizontalize to the technology. And, think about it now, like airlines. The idea that the airlines would put you to work for them, actually checking your stuff in, going to the kiosk, learn how to do all of that stuff. If somebody had said that you would be doing that like in 70s or the early 80s, they would look at you like you were crazy. But there's so much of that where we have to horizontalize ourselves to the technology, and the person who is in that space to help us do that is usually the provider. So it's almost like the provider is making the customer an employee of this. So it's like, am I being somebody else's employee and paying for this? Well, yes, you are, because you're taking advantage of the convenience and hopefully the power of the technology, which also should be giving you a better product or service at a lower price or a more competitive.
Or at least like there's a degree of accountability and transparency that aligns with that, in terms of tracking the process. So I appreciate that. But it is a cultural shift, and it is something that's not easy. And it's sometimes, you like as an example, the government implemented a new financial management system, right? There was a press about the rollout. I don't know the specifics. I don't have any insight, but I would imagine based on my own experience, a lot of it was like users trying to circumvent the process, just trying to get from step A to B, and they find out a hack, but that hack really like messes up everything because you don't do steps 5 to 6.
Because that's what we do when the system doesn't work or is not user friendly. We find the workarounds to just get it done.
But it's self-sabotaging in a lot of ways because the workaround and so process is important, and so that's a thread too. It's like the process, the journey, and so you have to bring people, and that's what you do. I would imagine.
So that's funny because you say that. One of my claims of fame is that I'm a certified Six Sigma black belt.
Okay.
So in the process improvement world, we call that standard work. So everybody else knows about SOPs. SOPs, you have an SOP for everything. Again, I come from a military background. In the Air Force, you had SOPs that told you everything and in detail, and they were cascaded or layered or whatever. If I was at a base and I wanted to talk about what my shop was going to do, I had overarching guidance that I could pull from that tells me this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and here are the left and right limits that I have to operate within. Based upon that, here's how we're going to do things or whatever. But a lot of times in the civilian world, you don't see as much structure like that. But I will tell you, some of the world-class companies out there, they go to standard work. Standard work is important, and it doesn't stifle innovation. It actually gives you a baseline for innovation. Because if everybody's just out there doing whatever they want to do, you don't have a baseline to understand how to improve and where to improve. You got to get everybody on a baseline, and then you say, oh, okay, well, based on this baseline right here, here's what we can do to eke out this much more efficiency. But if everybody's just doing their own thing,
but Rob, that's leadership.
Yes. There you go.
Right?
There you go.
So in a lot of ways, like I'm a part of the planning symposium that, for the planners, because, we're advocating for structured data. And one of the things we ask for all the time is, can we see your flow chart? Right? Can we see your process plan? Just what's your systemic process? Is it modeled out? 9 times out of 10, it's not.
It's not.
And then one time I saw it on a board. I was at a government agency, and I saw the workflow on a board, and I asked, can I have a copy of that? They wouldn't give me a copy, right? And so again, some of that is because maybe that was just being modeled. That was a workflow. It wasn't pertinent to the discussion. But sometimes there's a resistance in giving that transparency because that leads to accountability, and that leads to, okay, this is actually a process, and we don't want our process, basically scrutinized too much, because then that would create negative blowback.
But that's what should happen. It should get scrutinized to see how we can get better. Here's the other thing too. When people put a flow chart up or map a process, they map it by what the book is. And one of the first things that they teach you as a black belt is when you're looking at a process or whatever, yes, you're getting a team of folks together. You're assembling them to kind of look at the process, but you have what the book says you should be doing, but actually go out to the work environment and see how they're actually doing the job. Because just about 80 or 90% of the time, what the managers might say is going on in the book versus what actually is going on for various reasons out where the work gets done, there's a gap there.
Yeah, I liken that to the gap between sales and engineering in a lot of ways. I have my blue sky view, right?
Yes.
I'm living in my ivory tower, promising, and some engineers behind me sweating. It's like, I got to do all this. So I'm famous for that. Sorry. Sorry to the execution people, right? But that's the vision. But that's the Jobs and Wozniak, right?
Yeah.
You have the vision, you have the unflinching standard, but then you have the guy behind with the execution,
right,
and that understands systems and process. And what I see missing, and what I think is going to be a problem for us, is the lack of context, right? And so we have this workforce in the government that's in charge of delivering all these services, but a lot of the experience is leaving the room. And these flow charts are like, man, if we don't get these flow charts before this experience leaves the room, no one's going to have an idea how we got from point A to B ever. And they won't know the lessons of the past that says, well, this is why we sidestepped this thing and we went to point C instead of going to point B sequentially. It's because of this. No one will have that legacy knowledge. It will not be internalized, and it's leaving the room. And it's creating these systems because we have people coming in who maybe never have asked why, right?
Yes.
And that's consistent. And that's the danger of these SOPs, right? And I think that the thing now is like we should start really asking why, because right now it's apparent most of the systems and structures aren't working in the way that we intended them. They were fine for a time, but now what we're seeing is the leadership is still kind of like in that mindset. It's like, well, it can still work. We just got to... No, you got to tear the whole thing down, right?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is buggy whips. If you're familiar with the term from process improvement, if we're driving automobiles now, we don't have horse-drawn carriage with buggy whips. So the way that you designed a horse-drawn buggy so that you could use the buggy whip and stuff, you don't have to design it the same way because it's an automobile. You're not using buggy whips anymore. So there's a lot of buggy whips out there and a lot of processes. Like in the 70s and 80s, maybe this office needed to do X, Y, and Z this way because technology didn't exist, be able to do it that way, or the population was at a certain level where it dictated this. But now with the population at this level and technology this way, well, now we can do it this way. I tell you, that's a fantasy of mine. I would love to put on my black belt hat and go like from department to department in the government of Guam and just map out their processes, build SOPs and standard work, and then just go on to the next one. Boom, 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 boom.
Rob, but I would argue this has already been done. Like probably at least 3 different times across 3 different... No. Like Bert Johnston. You know Bert, right? Bert has a plan to fix permitting. It's a document that came out at the onset of the Guerrero Tenorio administration. He wrote it. They made him the permitting guy. He answered the problem, but it's been stuck in procurement for 2 years. Right? It's like all these recommendations were modeled in, but it's been litigated. And it's the government... Procurement is a big issue here in deploying a solution. And I think that's where our journey has to go. Our journey has to go to the stakeholders and the early adopters privately, find a model that works for us, and then tell the government, this is what we want. This is what we want to mandate in terms of data structure. We want the services stood up systemically.
Coalition of the willing.
Exactly. So we need to come to, and that's why the sharing of ideas is so important. That's why what you're doing is so important, right? We need to get that message out to get to the place where we're sharing ideas and advocating for ourselves. Because the people in power have no idea. That's real. Like I would say the people who are being elected are beneficiaries of systems that stood them up to be in positions to have power. I don't see anyone who's really grassroots who would really like alter like an approach. But sometimes the people who know the best are the ones in power. And sometimes those are the ones who are just like, like what's happened lately is like some dude just came in and just like, he didn't care what was going to happen. He just took his hand and like swiped it across the table, broke systems and structures. And so now there's stuff coming up, but in a lot of ways, we need a reset like that, right? The systems and structures that have been stood up here are just not going to work anymore. It's modeled for a different time. It's modeled for a different environment. It's modeled for a different economy and a different population base. We are not there anymore. We can't imagine. we have to be honest with ourselves, right? It's like in sports, right? It's like you hire the bad coach and you move on from him after the first year, but you know it's wrong when it's wrong. I think we need to admit to ourselves what's wrong, admit the bad decisions, take ownership and accountability, and just and ride and let's go
Yes.
forward, right? And I think it starts with us. We can't rely on the government. I think it's got a coalition of the willing. We got to get together, get the voices heard, and get alignment, and then push
Yes.
forward. And
Yes.
set that in policy. It's an election year, Rob. And I think this is a perfect time to start advocating for our industry, for our things, for ourselves.
Yeah. And, you know, here's the reality. Change doesn't usually happen very quickly, especially if you're trying to improve something, because that's just the reality of it. You don't have enough capital, you don't have enough people, you don't have enough time, etc. So it's incremental change over time. But holding leadership accountable for that roadmap for incremental change. The idea is that whether you're a Democrat administration or a Republican administration, I'm handing you off the ball, i.e., the playbook that we've got. Your job is to carry it down the field as far as it can. Okay, your administration ends, and then you hand it off to the next one. But we're moving down that field year by year, you know, administration by administration, so that we can be at that ultimate goal of, you know, 21st century tech and innovation hub. You know, Guam could be a jewel of the Pacific. You know, I've written about this before that, you know, I use the Singapore model or whatever. And then immediately people point to out to me, well, you know, that was under a dictator. Well, yeah, you know, he was a dictator, benevolent dictator or whatever, but there's no reason in a democratic republic, in a democratic society, that we can't do the same thing. It's about planning, it's about transparency, it's about accountability, commitment, and consistency to purpose. If we can do those things, then we can move that ball down the field and hold our people, our leaders accountable for their part in helping us move it down the field. It's not any magic formula or whatever.
Data Points is powered by GTA Business because reliable data starts with a reliable network. If your current provider is slowing you down, it's time to make the switch. GTA Business delivers faster speeds, better reliability, and local support you can count on. And as Guam's only full-stack provider, from small business, enterprise, and government, GTA offers fiber, wireless, and secure data center solutions to keep your business running without compromise. Bring your business to GTA and start getting more from your network today. So, Rob, one of the things that interests me about your podcast is you get a lot of people like with actual, like real exciting technology. Like you had the guy from Gamma. Talk to me about some of the people that you've had on and the exciting things that you're doing and what you think that means for Guam.
All right. Well, like you said, I had Alex Benham, who's a program manager representing Astro America with Gamma, the Guam Additive Materials and Manufacturing Accelerator. I am a huge champion and supporter of Alex. Before he even got on island or whatever, you know, I was reaching out, talking with him, and I let him know in certain terms, I am here to make sure you succeed, because I really believe that if Gamma is done correctly, it could be the seed corn that we need to kind of move Guam to the point of being that 21st century tech and innovation hub. So let's paint the picture, right? So it is a partnership between the governor of Guam, Astro America, and the United States Navy, with the idea being that we're going to be able to additively manufacture or 3D print parts for ships and submarines.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Right.
Huge. And it's in alignment with all of the federal government policy documents that are trying to push more and more industrial capability out to the pointy edge of the spear, most importantly in the Indo-PACOM theater of operations. So this is right in alignment with federal government policy. But it is a uniquely Guam capability. They're trying to build up from the bottom Guam engineers, Guam technicians and stuff who are going to eventually take over the running of that facility, and they're going to be the ones, printing parts and doing 3D modeling and qualifying parts at the end and all that. Can you imagine if we build up a cadre of those kind of people who think in terms from the very beginning, additive manufacturing, 3D printing, rather than the old way of designing different things? And they move from Gamma now, and they're working at another company here on Guam. And they bring that experience and tell you how to use that. And now more and more people are populated with that kind of thinking. And then, oh, by the way, if it's done correctly and it's making an impact on the Navy's mission, you're going to be getting known across the world. Hey, those guys in Guam, they're doing additive manufacturing. They're doing a good job there, da 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 da. So now commercial industry says, hey, I want to start getting this space. I want to start 3D printing, fill in the blank kind of commercial product. Where can I go to set up my industrial facility, my operations or whatever? Hey, I heard about those guys in Guam. They're doing really good things with the Navy, da 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 da. I wonder if we could take advantage of their workforce and the infrastructure that they have in place to do that thing. And now industry is coming in here to do that and take advantage of it. So this becomes a very great possibility and a really great opportunity if done right. So I am totally committed. I tell Alex this all the time. Whatever you need in order to be successful, let me know. I will beat down whatever doors. I will put whatever bug in whoever's ears, because if you're able to do this for Guam, this could be like, the match that lit the fuse here.
And to your chosen path of consulting.
Okay.
What I see is there are a lot of programs here that give you money, right? There's a lot of incentives in the NDAA, right? To be a local based business, and especially additive manufacturing, because you'll be selected in a lot of ways for bidding. You get extra points, but those opportunities come with money, but no advisory. And so, in like vetting a technology business, getting investment in a technology business here, it's a challenge because there's not enough scale for like an institutional investor, because Guam is a small market.
Yes.
And then you'll be eaten up by the behemoths, right? If there's any like kernel here that was worth getting, it would be gobbled up. I mean, it's like our total GDP is like 5 billion, right? It's like, come on. we'll be gobbled up by a CoreLogic in like 10 seconds, right? But the reason why is because it's such a small market where you have to kind of take ownership, but there's opportunities in taking ownership of that, right? And there's a degree of expertise that you need to deploy these solutions, but almost like because it's not available here, in a lot of ways you're doomed to fail if you don't have enough support or enough instincts to kind of get yourself on the right path. And that's what I see in a lot of like on the small business side when they're starting out, especially in something. It's like you don't know what you don't know, and there's no one. It's like money is great, but if you don't have like, if it's Shark Tank, right, and you don't have the investor, if you don't have like the Mark Cuban or Mr. Wonderful like supporting you, you don't have the mentorship that you need to kind of break it out. And so what are you seeing in terms of mentorship that's available here that would be helpful to the coalition of the willing that you're trying to build?
Yeah, so it's a great observation. Too much I see Guam is trying to do big scale projects, but do it through grants and federal government appropriations. That's really not enough in order to do the kind of change and the kind of big, weighty projects, that we're talking about, which, like you said, goes directly to you need private capital and what's going to make them want to invest in Guam. Well, I point to things like the Guam Transshipment Task Force. That report highlighted opportunities for us to attract businesses. More importantly, I think of defense primes in the sustainment space, because they're already getting pushes to come and set up industrial capability, sustainment capability, logistics capability closer to where the forces are operating in the tip of the spear, at the tip of the spear in the Indo-PACOM area. So being able to set up those environments that attract primes to come in and want to set up shop, because you have a business-friendly environment, you have the right kind of incentives, but even more importantly, here's the model that a lot of other Pacific nations are using very successfully. It's a one-stop front-end door to Guam. So they're doing it in Australia, they're doing it in New Zealand, they're doing it in Tasmania and other places. So what if we had something, I'll call it a Guam Aerospace and Defense Alliance, that existed above the individual firms here. And it had both an internal as well as an external mission. Externally, it could go out there and market Guam that we're open for business, come set up here. But more importantly, it could bid on things.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So now
as an experiential structure, and then you sub it out.
And then you sub it out down to the different companies or whatever. So GATA would be that ability to go out there. And again, that's how some of these other nations are doing that kind of model. So, but internally, GATA could be then, okay, now I'm working with the government and I'm streamlining all of the environmental requirements, all the safety requirements, all of the things that you have to comply with in order to do business with Guam. I'm going to make sure I take care of for any of my customers or primes coming in. So all you do is deal with me. I deal with the government and everybody else. That makes it attractive for primes to want to come in here and do work.
It's like Amazon, right? How they're aggregating government contracts, so they'll prepay you and all that stuff. I like that. I really do like that.
Yes. So that's one thing I've been writing about, and I was just on the phone about a week or so ago with a guy named Josh Wanira, who is an expert consultant out of New Zealand. And he had seen some of my writing and stuff like that. And he was like, hey, I want to share with you all the different models that we're using in New Zealand. Here's how you can do it. So I'm trying to get Josh out here to the coming Guam Industry Forum that's sponsored by SAME.
Yeah.
That's coming up the middle to end part of June of this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd really like to get a panel of Josh and maybe Josh counterpart in Australia and some other people talking about how they've actually built up communities from nothing to these big defense industrial kind of things, and share kind of that model. So maybe that gets some kind of traction, maybe through the Guam Chamber of Commerce or GCA or something like that. We decide we're going to aggregate our resources and create something like this so that we can attract the primes here to do certain kinds of work and whatnot. So that's just
I really like
another
that
model.
No, I like that model. And I think the trade organizations would get behind that model, right? Because, they really need to advocate for their members in chamber and small business committee and Armed Forces Committee in how we're going to need to do business. And you have to bring that, because business is changing and the way we do business is changing. So you need to provide that educational apparatus to allow business owners to fully leverage that. Yes. Again, it's experiential. We want to set people up for success. And another thing too is structural support, right? So one of the things I did is I went to World of Concrete, right? Just to satisfy and I looked at 3D printers, right? Concrete 3D printers as a solution for Guam. Yeah. And so there's all kinds of different solutions. Some are just the machine. We just do the machines. We make the best machine. Mm-hmm. Some are okay, we do steps A through C, but you do D through F.
Right.
And some are just whole solutions, but that's solving the problem of the user that they're it's So what happened is we're focused on the company with the best machine, but we're like, how do we use it? Well, let me refer you to this partner who's been using it. And it was like, you can hire this guy as your consultant, right? That kind of, because they have to find a way to bring that expertise to bear so people can utilize their tool. And that's the idea of you, right? You're the guy who comes in and teaches you you can help with the decision, but you help more so in the leverage and the process and the shift, the mindset shift that's needed, and understanding the journey and what's going to come and what you need to be prepared for. And that's the iteration of what you do. But we need to scale that and make it widely available. Well, I mean, it could just be you, Rob. Maybe you can do it though. But and maybe you want to. So I won't step on your toes, right? But I guess
again, it's about execution. It's not about the idea. So I think it's a great idea, and I've been out there actively sharing the idea, and it's something that I'm going to go after. But it's going to require the execution. If we can't get the right people bought into this, and bought in that with actual dollars, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's not just from industry. Industry and government should throw into this pot of money because it's helping everybody. So we need government and industry to throw in this pot of money, stand up this kind of organization to go out there, let everybody know Guam is open for business. Come here, bring your work here, be able to compete for that work, win it, sub it out to different firms here, and work with the government to streamline all of that permitting and licensing and taxes and fees and environment. One-stop shop. GATA is going to make it happen for the primes so they don't have to waste any time for that. And boom, they're off and running. Hey, I like working in Guam. I like setting up there. And more importantly, particularly for the defense firms, they're getting pushed to do it anyway.
Right.
The federal government and all the strategy and policy documents is telling them, go out and set up industrial capability out at the point of the spear. What more point of the spear can you get than Guam?
Well, even on the housing side, right, Rob? It's like we're talking about rapid build, but I spoke to the guys at NAVFAC, and they're saying, well, we'd love to incorporate alternate technologies, but none of the design builds are coming in with those technologies, envisioned and no risk it, no biscuit, right? None of these guys. It's like I'm gonna just, it's fine. I know I can do these things, but everyone's gonna go concrete. I'm gonna go concrete too, and this is what we're gonna do because this is what it is, and we're just gonna try and make our margin less rather than taking the big swing. And so we need more big swings here because that's Elon Musk was putting tiles on roofs in American Samoa. Right, to test his solar technology. Yeah. Why couldn't that be us, right? Triple J, they want to do self-driving. Well, if you talk to Ed Camacho from Gita, he has war stories about all the stuff that's tried to start here, but then you run into that wall in terms of speed of doing business and what the capacity here is, and it just dies on the floor. But if we had an apparatus like that where someone could just say, because you go to Gita, you don't know all the structural realities of starting of a specific industry. No one can know.
Yes.
I can say yes all I want, and you tell me what I need, right? And then I'll stand that up for you and support. But in the meantime, I don't have maybe the insight to understand, well, we shouldn't do this, or we should do this, and maybe we should structure
and that's that. I think the problem I see. Now, again, I'm not trying to poke Gita in the eye. No, Gita does great work.
Yes.
But Gita can't be that thing that I just described before. Gita and GATA are two different things. And Gita has its role, but we're trying to also use Gita as GATA. It can't. GATA's got to be that thing out there going and drumming up industry work and capability that's bringing contracts back and then...
Yes. And supporting supporting the undermining infrastructure that gets.
So now that becomes the demand signal that everybody then marches toward. Hey, I need more of da 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 da. I need this kind of workforce labor. I need this kind of equipment or this kind of capability or whatever. But it's because you've got a contract in hand that's saying, I need to go and produce whatever for.
Right. And then they cross the experiential threshold, and then they're, they can spin off on their own, blah, 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 blah. Right. And everything's, I think you're on the right page. And I think the thread is here, like, if you have a big idea, you got to talk about it. you got to come to the people who are in the industry and share and not be scared, because we're the only ones doing it. Really, that's real, right? I mean, we only have each other, Rob.
That's right.
There's a lot of ways,
right?
We speak to Gita. Gita's a huge help. Like Gita is funding all these businesses that are innovating.
Yes.
Yeah, through the Destino Guahan, great program, right? Kudos to the administration for standing that up. But again, it's a lot of money. But is there expertise that's coming with that? Are these companies that are getting this cash, are they going to be ultimately successful? Because do we have that structure? Because the resources we have can't really stand up all that stuff. And
particularly if you're trying to do it by yourself.
Yes, right. And then again, if you have the wrong mindset and you're trying to be too insular, you're worried about trade secrets or someone stealing it from you, it's going to be hard for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the lesson of the day is that definitely more voices like yours are needed, more conversations around the issues are needed, and more collaboration is needed. And but we need to drive forward, and we need to stop doing the same things that we've been doing over and over again. And so I really appreciate your viewpoint and your alignment in this journey, and I look forward to seeing you successful moving forward and seeing you manifest. And honestly, I look forward to collaborating with you. Maybe on that event that we're talking about, where we bring that coalition of the willing and start to just ideate on some of the structures that we need in place to be successful. Because we're not setting the table. We'll call Charlie too, but and a few others that we know, right, who don't like to be said on camera. Anyways, you know who you are. But anyways, I look forward to working with you, and I appreciate your viewpoint, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing your POV. And
thank you. I appreciate it.
Do you have any parting words for the guests?
Usually this would be the time in my podcast that I would say, always remember, whether you're at work, at home, or at play, always innovate. So that would be one.
Right on. I got to come up with a sign off, man. Yvonne, what's up, man? Where's the feedback? So, Rob, again, I genuinely appreciate you. I genuinely appreciate your approach and your collaboration. I appreciate your friendship.
Thank you.
Everything you and having you on, right? So thank you.
All right.
Awesome. Oh, and then, by the way, tell everyone where they can listen to your stuff.
Yes, so you can get me at Rob the Innovation Coach, my Substack. I use that as kind of the umbrella for all of my content. So you can get all of my podcasts, you can get all of my writing, and if you sign up, it's for free with your email. You'll get them every Monday newsletter. So whatever the new content that's come up in the last week, you'll get that in newsletter kind of format. So please go to Substack and check me out. You can also see me on all the rest of the social media platforms, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube as well. But come check me out on Substack. That's where you can get kind of everything.
What class do I take at UOG if I want you as my professor?
Yes. So this semester I'm teaching PA 490 and PA 590. Those are special topics in public administration. And shout out to Dr. Ron McNinch, because he allowed me to build my own course for this semester. And what we're looking at is really special topics in logistics and supply chain management. I'm having my graduate students and seniors look at and thoroughly read and analyze the Guam Transshipment Task Force report and come up with ways to implement the recommendations out of that.
Nice.
And at the end, their final grade is going to be based on giving a presentation to a group of industry and government leaders to talk about how they would implement those kind of recommendations and the implications of that. So maybe you'll be able to come back
sure.
in May and time frame in order to support that. That would be
No,
really
Rob, we'd
good
love
for
to
the
have them on
students.
and present their ideas, honestly, right? Like, I think the presentation and proliferation ideas is important, right? So we've been asking the public policy kids to come on because they came up with some housing solutions. We just haven't been able to work it out, right? So yeah, any kind of report or anything that you guys do, we're definitely interested. And, you know, we have a data scientist that works for director of decision science, Keith. His episode is dropping soon. So we'll model all that. If you need any numbers and support, we'll definitely support you.
Okay, awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rob. Appreciate you.
All right, thank you.
Wow. I didn't expect that podcast from Rob to be like that. I mean, the energy when two people align, I think we're definitely on the same page, and he has a lot of great ideas in how to build a sustainable workforce on Guam, and that excites me because we're all trying to build these technology businesses that we think are the way forward and that we think are going to bring great things to the Guam market and really help people. And that's what we're about. We want to help you. We want to develop datas and systems that help you be successful. So if you need help, please reach out to me. Please reach out to Rob. Please share your ideas, and not just with your friends on our pages. Like, share, subscribe. Give us your questions and comments. Let us know what you think on Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Data Points.